Welcome everyone to another episode of the Literally Me podcast. My name is Dino and I'm joined by my amazing friend Tristan. And we're back. We said we'll do this more regularly, and look at us. A week later, we're already back,
Yes, sir.
which is great.
We
And
sure we sure are. It's very rare.
yep. And this week we're gonna talk about La La Land. So this episode is to all the dreamers out there, which is such an iconic film, that I'm very excited to talk about it with you. But before we get into that, I actually have a couple news from
Oh, give it to
a
me.
while ago. I forgot about it the last time we recorded, so I thought I'd just mention them really quickly. And one thing, we got a new trailer for our boy new film, Ryan Gosling, The Fall
We
Guy,
did.
which,
Yes.
yeah, we can like quickly talk about if you want. You've seen the trailer.
I checked it. It was just on TV, I think, randomly. I think it was actually
Mhm.
like maybe even last Sunday, like while watching football. I think they
Mhm.
might have I might have caught it. I don't really
Yeah,
remember. But yes, I did see it that one time. I did not check it again though.
same. I didn't even watch the whole thing. Like I quit it after like a couple, I don't know, after a minute or something because it shows a lot. I was like,
Yeah, and am I mistaken in remembering you're a big kind of like not watching a trailer kind of guy, like just going in sort of blind?
I am. I usually don't watch them. I
Okay.
was like, it's Ryan Gosling. I want to check out just to
Yeah.
get a vibe of the film.
Yeah.
But then I was like, dude, they show so much. I'm like, nope. I want to be
Yeah.
surprised. But it looks great. It looks fun.
It looks cool. I know it's directed by somebody
David
who is
Leitch.
it?
David Leitch.
Oh
Leitch.
yeah, yeah. He's the dude who did Bullet Train, correct?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
It
And I think he
Deadpool
did like Deadpool and like those dead. Okay, yeah, here it is.
Deadpool 2.
He did Deadpool 2, Atomic Blonde,
Yep.
Bullet Train, I guess one of the Fast and Furious movies. And it looks like that.
Yeah.
It gave me a lot of to go back to the first episode, or I guess technically maybe the second episode of this new reimagination of the pod to the Gray Man. It gave me a lot of Gray Man vibes, personally.
Yeah. I think that's
It
like the closest of Ryan Gosling's filmography that it comes to.
Yeah, it felt like it was attempting to be like because maybe the because of the like it feels like a very Ryan Gosling movie in that it's a mix of a lot of the shit he's done,
Mm.
but like it looks like it's trying to mix like Drive like with like the stuntman kind of like aspect. It looks like it's trying to mix in the movie we'll talk about next week, The Nice Guys, with like some
Yep.
of the comedy. It looks like a continuation of the Gray Man. Like this could easily probably be the same character. And there's
It could.
also vibes from like Place Beyond the Pines, but just in a more like goofy sort of mainstream Hollywood way.
Yeah, and it's based on a
So,
TV show, I found out, like an old TV show,
oh really?
which I didn't know. Yeah, our potential guest next week told me about it. And he said he actually grew up with the TV show and he watched it as a kid, which will be interesting.
Interesting.
Maybe we can talk about it next week more with him, so he can tell us a little
Yeah.
bit about it. But yeah, it's apparently it's an old TV show.
Wow, 5 seasons on ABC. It's about a
Mhm.
Hollywood stuntman mount Wow, this looks really cool, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same thing, but I didn't realize that this was a like, not just like a mini but like 5 seasons worth. Wow.
Mhm. It was popular, I think, back in the day. So
It looks like it and has pretty good, reviews from what I see, and starred Lee Majors as that role that, Gosling's playing, I believe.
interesting.
Um, wow, very cool. I had no
Mhm.
idea. I might check out an episode or 2.
Mhm. I think else our two is it comes out on March 1st.
Yeah.
Which would be interesting because Dune Part 2 just got pushed forward, like moved forward, I think, to March 1st as well. So we might get a double feature
Really?
if I'm not incorrect.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Um, fall. Okay, so this is gonna be a theatrical release then,
Yep.
correct? Okay. I don't know
Mhm.
why, and again, maybe it's just because of the vibe and style and because of the Gray Man thing, but it feels like this is like a Netflix movie,
Netflix.
doesn't it? Yeah,
Yeah. Even like or Amazon. I think like the trailer thing just kind of looks like an Amazon production. I don't know
for
why.
sure. For sure,
Yeah.
like the boys type beat.
Yeah. Or like
Yeah.
Invincible, even the colors like the yellow and the blue of the trailer, I think.
I just learned about this show Invincible like literally 2 days ago. I had never
Yeah.
heard of it ever, and
Dude, it's
and
so
this girl
good.
was telling me about it. I had never heard about it.
It's so good. I read a couple of the comics back then and I loved it, but it was just too expensive at the time to get into it because over
Yeah.
here you just had like these big volumes you had to get, which are like 30 or $40 each. So I never
Good
really
God.
got into it, but I was always interested. I used to like watch videos of people recapping the issues, and it's a very violent animated show.
Really?
Dude,
So is it
it's
kind of like an American anime? Like
pretty
not
much
in terms of like in terms of its ethos, like in what it's trying to do, maybe not the animation style or anything, but
for sure. It's well, it was written by Robert Kirkman, who also done the Walking Dead comics, who was also involved with
okay.
the TV show. It's very much in that sense, but it's sort of like it parodies a lot of the already existing superheroes of Marvel and DC,
Okay.
but it's also its own thing. Like it's not just but The Boys is a lot more like a I don't know, like a parody of those. But this is like actually like its own universe. It has a lot of original characters that aren't inspired by other heroes. And like I said, it's super violent. It gets super dark and it's great. I just watched the second episode because the second season is currently going on and
Uh-huh.
a lot of fun.
I'm gonna check it out. It was very highly reviewed, or highly recommended to me, so I'm
Mm.
super curious.
You might like it. I
When
mean,
it was
you
being
might
dis
get. Mhm.
yeah, when it was being described to me, I it didn't even sound like it was animated. Like when it was being described to me, I thought it was like a real live action thing, like just because of the way in which it was described. And then at the end, or no, I didn't even mention. I think when I just Googled it, I was like, oh, it's animated. I was like, you made it sound like it was real. So that's a good sign where people are not going straight to like, oh, it's this like cartoon or it's this animated thing, but they describe it in a way that is so like not descriptive, but like
Mhm.
intensely descriptive, maybe where it feels real. But I'm gonna check
Yeah,
it out.
they're making a real like live action movie of it as well. So that's
Oh,
currently
really?
yeah, because it's super popular and Robert Kirkman said it's still in development, so they're trying to get a live action one going.
This cast is freaking stacked.
Dude, it's insane. I don't know how they got all those people. Steven
Wow,
Yeun,
this is in
J.K. Simmons.
Seth Rogen, Zachary Quinto, Mark Hamill. This is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Sandra Oh,
Yep.
Walton Goggins.
Mhm.
Damn.
It's stacked. And the funny thing is, it would be interesting if they actually do it because in the comics, they had a crossover with Spider-Man.
Uh huh.
So they had like I'm not sure how it was. I think it was like a multiversal thing. And people are rumoring that they might do it in the animated show, like an episode, because they got Josh Keaton, who voiced Spider-Man. He's in the second season, and people are saying, "Oh, it's going to be Spider-Man." And
He voices Spider Man in what?
it was the I think Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon,
Okay.
one of the cartoons. It wasn't Spectacular. I think it's
What's his
Ultimate
name?
Spider-Man.
Josh Keaton.
Josh Keaton, I think.
Okay, the Spectacular Spider-Man, Spider-Man. Oh, damn, this dude was the voice of Kangaroo Jack, the
No
cartoon.
way.
That's dope. Or he was
Yes.
at least in it. I don't know who did the voice, but
Mhm. And Amazon is currently making a Spider-Man spin-off. They're doing like a Silk either TV show or movie, and they have like some ties with Sony. So people are
oh,
saying
okay.
they might be able to do the episode. I'm not sure if they could because it's like again it's super violent, and I'm not sure if Sony would want that and if they would
Yeah.
like give them Spider-Man. But I could see them doing like a character that looks like Spider-Man and acts like Spider-Man and is maybe called like Peter whatever, like Peter Palmer. But that's
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
again,
yeah.
that's yeah, in the first comic he was actually called Peter Palmer, which was a printing issue, so they might not be able to use it.
Really?
Maybe they can just change his name and have the same powers, so people
Sure.
who read the
Yeah.
comic like know it's
It
Spider-Man, but
seems it seems like it's a very funny show as well.
Mhm.
So I feel like they would probably find a really clever way to like integrate that, at least from what I'm gathering, just from the
yeah,
outside.
yeah, it would be interesting. It'd be interesting. We
Yeah,
might see it
I,
in
I'm
like a couple weeks.
yeah, I'm gonna check it out because I literally had never even heard of the show prior
Hmm.
to like 48 hours ago. Yeah, I had
Hmm.
no idea.
Yeah. And then we had another trailer, which we talked about this film briefly. It's the new Planet of the Apes film, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which came out.
I did not know that there was a trailer
The trailer
at
came
all.
out a couple of weeks after we talked about it on the podcast.
And did you watch it though?
I did.
And
I broke my rule once again, and it looks amazing. It looks really great.
okay,
I'm a big fan of like the recent Planet of the Apes films by Matt Reeves. So I wanted to check it out and it looks really, really great. And you can see how they're getting back to like the original, the first one, because these are all prequels. You can see how they're like
right.
slowly getting to that. And I think it will lead to a remake of the original one.
Interesting. Hold on. I'm just doing a little bit of research right now,
Mhm.
just to pull it up because I was unaware of
Mhm.
this. Um, this looks dope because so I remember them announcing this. And is this continuing on after the what was the third one? The War for the Planet of the Apes?
Yep. It's a continuation. Matt Reeves is still
Okay.
producing, I think.
Right. It's some guy named Wes Ball is directing
Mhm.
uh is directing it. Okay. Um interesting. Interesting. I'm gonna peep this trailer afterwards. I can't
Yeah.
like now I'm just like thinking about it a lot, so I'm super curious. But um that's pretty cool. It's I so for me, Planet of the Apes is like a lot of people have like Star Wars, a lot of people have like Harry Potter, some people have like whatever their like even Marvel, whatever
Mhm.
their like franchise, their like nerdy franchise is or whatever. Like Planet of the Apes has that was like for me. Like I was not
Mhm.
like into Star Wars, Star Trek, but like Planet of the Apes is like my shit. I love like the original Planet of the Apes, like that, like those five movies. Some are obviously far better than others, and none of them ever reached the actual like heights of the first one, like altogether. But there are some like the third and the fourth one, like the Escape from the Planet of the Apes and the Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. Like those movies are very fucking good, and like they continue on that story in a really creative way. And the thing that I always thought that was so cool about the Planet of the Apes is that you could low key start at any like in the original five. You could low key kind of start at like any of those five movies and then just watch it in a continuous loop because like the way that they sort of do like the timeline in Planet of the Apes, like it kind of works. Like you could start at any point in it. I mean, and watch in order. Like you couldn't go like four, one, three, five, two. Um, but like you could very well go like two, three, four, five, one, or like four, five, one, two, three, or
Wild.
whatever. Just in the way that the structure is. And there's probably some fucking dweebs out there who are probably like, no, you can't. But like it just works like thematically and in terms of like the story. And I always
Mhm.
thought that was really cool. So I really, really was skeptical when they were doing the remakes or the reboots
Mhm.
rather and but I really loved all three of them because they weren't just trying to remake like all these others are all just remakes. Like it was truly a completely different story with
Mhm.
just the same sort of inspiration. And like I love that it was all like a product of this disease, which in the original clearly that's not like what it was. Um but I'm excited to see where this goes. And if they do end up leading up to um if they do end up leading up to a new remake, I'm going to be very curious to see how they go about that because I think what made these reboots work is that they were standalone things. Like they are independent of the original and they still work well as opposed to trying to redo anything from it. You know what I mean?
100% know what you mean. And it'd be interesting. Maybe they won't even remake it and just make it up to that point, and then you can just watch the old ones, which would be very cool
Yeah,
as well. And I think
yeah,
that,
one
yeah, I
one
hope
hundred
they.
percent.
But
Have
I
you
didn't know that
seen?
you liked them so much because I mentioned them because I just thought it was interesting, not knowing that you love these films so
Yeah,
much.
yeah. I really do. Have you seen all of the original Planet of the Apes?
I haven't. I only
You've
watched the
seen
original
the one. Okay.
one
Um, I
a
would
long
recommend
time ago.
checking it out. It's a lot of fun. I kind of want to run it back. It's been probably at least like 4 years for me since I have. And I have like the whole box set up upstairs.
Mhm.
Um, but it's really cool, and the way that it kind of plays with time is really sort of interesting because it sort of balances like the 1970s or 1960s or whatever, but also with like the 4000s or like something ridiculous. So it introduces like a weird sort of like thing with time that I don't know. I like the way that they
Mhm.
structured Planet of the Apes as like a franchise. I think it's really cool, and the concept is just it's just my kind of bag. I like it a lot.
For sure. It comes out on May 20, yeah, May 24.
Cool.
Tell you what, if we finish the Ryan Gosling thing, we could do a special episode where we like rewatch or you rewatch, I watched like the original ones, and we can do a special episode just talking about those. Think that could be
Well, we
fun.
can do that. Hell yeah, we can do that either way as a nice little bonus. Planet of the Apes app.
Hell
I'm
yeah.
actually I'm super down for that to watch all of those original, maybe even throw on the Reeves joints, all building up to the new one for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, because I
Hell
want to
yeah.
watch the original one, so that could be like a good excuse
That's
to
the
just watch
perfect that's the perfect time to do it then. And I'm gonna
it.
wait. I'm gonna wait for that as well.
Okay. And then I have one more thing just quickly because we also talked about it and that was a very interesting discussion. The title thing, like with part one, part two. You remember like our little conversation about that?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part
Part one
2 announced
or
that
part two.
it's no longer gonna keep that title. So it's
Oh,
gonna
what
get a different title, probably one that is not part 2.
that's kind of funny considering the first one was labeled as part one though.
That's exactly why it's so
So
weird. I think they wanna, like, move on from it, so because the first one didn't do as well at the box office because of Barbenheimer, so I
yeah,
think they're trying to distance themselves so people don't think, "Oh, I have to watch this one, I didn't watch it, I'm not gonna go."
sure.
So I think they're just gonna give it a
Yeah.
different title, but what happens to the first film? Like, the Blu-rays, are they gonna, like, reprint them? Just call it Dead Reckoning, just Dead Reckoning, period? Or, like, it'll be interesting to see how it works, and I know we talked about, like, the part 1, part 2 kinda thing, so I just thought it was, like, weird and interesting.
Yeah, that's like a super weird like I don't know. Like I totally understand like why though. Like I
Mhm.
that totally makes sense to me why they would do it, but also if you've already put out a movie that's like part 1, then like I don't quite get like why why you would do that. Like it's like in Italy, I remember like they did this a lot for like Italian horror or Italian like giallos or like shit like that in the 70s. And over there, like Dawn of the Dead was called Zombie, um, Zombi, and like it was written by Argento and was like a super popular thing like over there
Mhm.
in Italy. And I remember when Fulci made a movie called Zombie that came out in like maybe a year or two right after Dawn of the Dead. They sold it as Zombie 2, but it had no connection to Dawn of the Dead whatsoever, and it was a whole new story. Like it had nothing to do, but they just called it Zombie 2 so that the people who loved Dawn of the Dead, aka Zombie, would go see it thinking it was a sequel, but they had literally nothing to do with each other, zero connection. So this is
Yeah.
like the anti version of that, where they're like, we have this sequel, but we're just
Mhm.
going to call it something else so you don't think it's a sequel. But then everyone who goes and watches this new Mission Impossible shit is so be like, wait, what the fuck happened? Like, I don't even know what happened leading up to this.
Yeah, they probably explained it at the beginning of the film, but back to that one, like that is false advertisement. Like people could have sued because I know other people sued later when people did that.
Yeah,
So
that's definitely like a product of its time. Like
yeah.
not something you could get away with now, but like back then, like these like distributors and like independent production companies were like just scummy. Like
Mhm.
it's just which I get it. Like you really have to. And I kind of am inspired by that model myself, where it's just like we're gonna have to just find ways to keep this thing sustainable. But you could never get away with that now for sure.
You know,
No way.
yeah, and I know like other companies did that, but for example, it wasn't called Infinity War and Endgame. It was Infinity War Part 1 and Part 2, but they changed the title before the films came out. So
Exactly.
then it made sense, but now like first one already came out and I think the Blu-rays are already, I don't know if they're out yet, but they've been printed because I know Mark told me that he ordered his already. So it'll be
Oh,
interesting to
really?
see if he receives a Part 1 or if it's just like Dead Reckoning.
Yeah. Oh,
But I
that's
think Tom
interesting.
Cruise
Did they
just,
announce what the new name is going to be?
nope, not yet.
Okay.
Maybe
Well,
like
that'll be
Final
interesting to
Reckoning or
see.
something.
Yeah, I'm thinking back. Was Harry Potter the first movie to do the part one, part two thing for the
I'm not
Deathly
sure.
Hollows? Because I feel like that was like pretty early on in the game for that.
Yeah. They definitely set a trend with later, especially like like movies that are based on books, where
Twilight
they
Zone, or not, I'm sorry, not Twilight Zone, but Twilight did that as well, I think.
think so. I know Hunger Games did with Mockingjay
Yeah,
Part
Hunger
1 and
Games.
Part 2.
Yeah,
And I think Maze, I'm not sure. Yeah, but Harry Potter was definitely one of the first, especially
yeah,
major films to do it.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a fan.
Same, same. Yeah. Those were the news, and I think we can just like, get into this week's film if you want.
I'm about it. I'm about it. Let's do it.
So this week's film, of course, like I mentioned, is La La Land. Came out in 2016 and directed by Damien Chazelle, starring our boy Ryan Gosling and Emma
Hmm.
Stone. This is a film that honestly doesn't need an introduction because, I mean, everyone on this planet probably has seen it.
Yeah. And it's one of those where it's like I don't really know what else it is that we're gonna offer to the conversation either. Like
Mhm.
everything has kind of already been said, but yeah, it's still nonetheless excited to get into it at least a little bit.
I think we can provide like our picks that work well. I think
For sure. For
that's
sure.
better.
What was well to get into it for I'm because I'm sure everyone here has seen La La Land or is listening, or
Mhm.
is at least aware of it. So we don't have to get into the whole extensive plot of it because um, it is kind of like a little mini saga. You know, it goes across a ton of time. But did you see this movie once it came out,
I
like
saw it
in
in
theaters?
theaters. Yep. Saw it in
Yeah, I
theaters. You didn't, right?
and I did not. No, I
You
saw
watched?
this like for the first time like 2 years ago.
Yeah, that's what I remembered, which is wild.
Yeah, because I kept again. This is the thing where I was just putting it off. 'Cause I'm like, I just don't get down with musicals. So I
Mhm.
literally slept on this movie for like 4 years of no Gosling. That was just like
Mhm.
there, readily available.
Mhm.
Um, Simply because I'm like, I'm not going to do a musical. Come to find out, it would probably be like maybe the best musical I have seen.
And one of the best films, honestly. At least for me, it's just so good.
Yeah, it's a nice continuation for Chazelle from Whiplash. It seems like the next logical step, like to compare it to something in a completely different world. It feels like the uncut gems to the Safdie brothers' Good Time, where it's like you see that there is something here, but it's kept in a much more contained sort of world, like with Whiplash, and then to compare to the Safdies with Good Time, it's a lot
Mhm.
more contained. And then it's just like you're like there's something here and it's about to like just burst out of this box, and that's exactly what this was, just like the Los Angeles version where it has so much of what Chazelle's doing in Whiplash, but just like is like no, I'm gonna go the fuck off real quick and like make it as expansive as possible.
And even when Crazier with Babylon, which you already talked about, like that's where he was like no chains on me. I'm just gonna like do the
Yep.
weirdest shit. No one can
Yep.
stop me. He did
Our
so.
first, the first ep of this pod
Yep, yep,
always comes full circle.
it does. But there's a funny thing that I wanted to mention, which I don't know if you know about it because you only like watched it recently. But did you know that Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone originally weren't planned to be in this film?
It was Miles Teller and the chick from Harry Potter, right?
Emma Watson.
Emma Watson. Yeah.
Yep, that's right. I just
I'm
wanted
so
to mention.
fucking glad that that wasn't the case. They're both great actors, but like
Wouldn't have been the
that
same.
wasn't it. Yeah,
No.
that wasn't it. Because Gosling and Emma Stone have like the best chemistry, like modern chemistry between like male and female actors on screen. I think.
Yeah.
Um,
We'll see where that chemistry began in another film later on,
yes.
which I'm not excited to watch, but like rewatch.
Really, really.
Gang- Gangster Squad.
Is that where it started? I thought Crazy Stupid Love was first, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, you're right. I yeah,
I did.
you're,
Okay, I didn't
I
even think
forgot
about
about
Gangster
that.
Squad. Yeah, Crazy Stupid Love. I'm pretty sure is where it started. That was 2010. I think Gangster Squad. Let me give that a goog.
I
I
think it was
thought
like
Gangster Squad was like
2012.
2012 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2013.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, you're totally
I
right. I
did. I
forgot
honestly
about
didn't
Crazy
even.
Stupid Love.
Is Emma Stone in Gangster Squad? I don't even remember if I even
Yep,
saw that movie.
she is. Not a fan of that
Yeah,
film, but
yeah, but I guess we'll get into that one sooner than Crazy Stupid Love because I was gonna say, damn, you don't like that? I thought for sure you'd be like a big Crazy Stupid Love fan. So I was like, damn, Dino, could
I
go the fuck
completely
off, my
forgot.
boy.
Yep, I just forgot that was like the one before that, but no, I like that one. I like the one. I'm excited to
which
rewatch it.
which speaking of Emma Stone, if I can interject real quick on something,
Mhm.
currently I just want to shout out again. Everything comes full circle in this pod. Speaking of the Safdie brothers, are you watching at all the new Benny Safdie, Nathan Fielder, Emma Stone show, The Curse, that just dropped?
I can't watch it here.
Oh fuck. Okay,
I
well, two episodes are out. I caught up on the second episode yesterday.
mhm. I
This
want to
show is
watch it.
unfucking believable. It's so damn good, bro. It is
I saw
so
you
good.
posting about it. I want to watch it, and it might be. I have to actually check if it's on WoW. I might have to get another WoW subscription for it. But it
Right
looks.
now, it's on Paramount Plus in the States, but it's not just Paramount Plus. It's Paramount Plus Showtime upgrade. And that doesn't mean you can get a Showtime subscription on the Showtime app. It doesn't work that way either. You got to go through Paramount and then get their Showtime add-on. So I'm literally just making like 10 different emails to like do free trials every week. But
To
I
watch
found
it.
out today when I was canceling my new trial, they're like, "No, don't leave. Stay for 2 months free." So I have the next 2 months for the entirety of the show locked in that I can watch
You
for free.
finessed Paramount.
Yes. So um shout out to Paramount Plus. Not really. I kind of don't fuck with them, but yeah, great show. Emma Stone is so good, man. She's really, I think maybe my favorite actress like currently.
Mhm.
I think she might be number one.
She's amazing. We have Paramount Plus over here, but doesn't seem like they have that show on it right now. It might be like a convoluted rights issue over here, but yeah, I'll
I'm
find a way
sure
to
it
watch it. I
I'm
love
sure it
Nathan.
is.
Mhm. Love Nathan
Go ahead.
Fielder. Emma Stone. Need to check it out.
Nathan Nathan Fielder is like my dude. I genuinely think he is just such a genius.
Mhm.
In every way. I really, anyway, this isn't about him. Maybe we can have a special episode dedicated to him, but he's like one of like when I'm like, oh, he makes something, I'm like, I'm there day one. Like it's like when Ryan Gosling drops a movie, even though clearly I have exhibited that I've gone years without seeing Gosling shit, but the same kind of mentality. He's like, I could easily see myself changing my Instagram name to like a young X Fielder or something like
Fielder.
that. Like that is
That's
my
right.
guy. I love that man.
I love him as well.
But
But yeah,
anyway, back to La La Land and their chemistry. This so did you see Crazy Stupid Love or Gangster Squad prior to this, or was this, did you watch this first and then maybe check out those others afterwards?
I watched both before it, not when they came out. I think Gangster Squad was a couple years later, and Crazy Stupid Love was like I think Crazy Stupid Love was actually watched after La La Land. Now thinking of
Okay.
it,
Okay.
but yeah, I definitely saw Gangster Squad before La La Land. That I know for sure.
Okay.
I
Did
was
it
familiar with.
Yeah,
Yep.
did it okay, well, I guess if you don't really remember specifically, but I was curious to know if, like, seeing them again in Crazy Stupid Love without seeing it first, if you, like, saw, like if you saw, like, that there was something, like, maybe their chemistry had, like, blossomed or had, like, grown or, like, strengthened, or if you saw, like, inklings of Crazy Stupid Love in La La Land, because they have, like, a very distinct, like, chemistry, I think. Like, I can't
They
really
do.
think of many other on-screen duos, like male and female, that really kinda have that very effortless sort of chemistry, and you think of them even with other people, it doesn't flow as well.
Mhm. I think there's definitely some similarities to Crazy Stupid Love, and like just how their like even just relationship off screen, not in a romantic way, but like in a
Yeah,
friendship way. I
yeah,
think it definitely benefited just how natural it flowed in La La Land because it just
yeah,
felt real.
yeah,
I think that definitely
100%.
they've done two projects before where they were romantic partners in those films. I think that's definitely out of it. And I don't think that Miles Teller and Emma Stone love both of them, they're great actors. I'm not sure if they could have brought the same just the same
Em
chemistry.
Em
So
Emma
I think
Watson, you
Damien
mean?
Chazelle
Like, Emma Watson, you mean?
Emma Watson, yeah. I don't think they would
Okay,
have
yeah.
brought like the same amount. So I think Damien Chazelle got lucky with that not working out and those two coming in.
100% got lucky.
And
Like I said, I like them both individually. They're both great. They're both fine. But this was not it. And I like that. I will say I do like with Damien Chazelle where he has reused a lot of the same actors. Actually, I take that back. That's a complete lie. I was gonna say, but he's never reused the same lead, but he literally did for First
yeah,
Man. So
it did.
so I take that back entirely. Um, which we talked about that movie, and that was like such a nice, pleasant surprise to like revisit that and like properly re-experience that movie. But
Yeah.
yeah, anyway,
But
um,
you said you don't like musicals or usually don't like them. Why did La La Land resonate more with you? Like, or did you find the music annoying at first, or was it like I'm on board with this 100%, even though you don't like it?
no, I think immediately I enjoyed the film. Like I rem yeah, there like, and I wasn't fighting against it either. Like, I didn't go into it like, all right, I'm gonna hate this. Like, I was just like, I'm not gonna watch it because I don't like musicals. But then
Mhm.
there came a point where I was like, I have to just watch this because A, it's my boy. And then two, I remember I was talking to this girl at the time who was telling me also, like, you have to see it. So again, I was like, yeah, like this is kind of dumb. Like my own namesake on like Instagram and shit, and I haven't even watched it. But I went into it very open, so it wasn't, and I liked it like almost immediately. Like, so it
Mhm.
wasn't like me like fighting against the movie. But typically, in general, with musicals, I don't. The thing that I don't like about musicals is I don't like when the songs and the singing is what dictates what goes on for the film. I like
Mhm.
that in La La Land, they were all supplemental to like the story, but the acting and the actual like script in terms of like the dialogue and whatever and like the plot was actually what was driving it. It was just the music that was sort of essentially carrying you along as
Mhm.
opposed to like I think of like old school musicals where it's like they will straight up sing, my dad doesn't understand me, my dad will never get it, and it's just like
Mhm.
they're singing, you know what I mean? Like it's not
Yep.
like a, not that it's an unrelated song in La La Land. All the songs have to do, but it's not like they're dictating what's happening in the scene. To me, I
Mhm.
find that to be very nonsensical and goofy, and I just
Like a
personally don't
Broadway
care for that.
musical, pretty much.
Yeah, like on some Broadway shit, I'm just like, I'm
Yep.
not, I'm not really about this. Like, it's just
Mhm.
not my thing. I'd rather see you guys act it out than sing it because it feels more real to me that way.
I 100% understand what you mean. I love musicals. I love watching musicals. I'm even gonna recommend some musicals later on.
Yeah,
But this one, I understand why you like it because like you said, it's the music is like the singing is complementary, and you still have those moments where they truly act and they don't, even when they sing, they just don't. Because with other like musicals, they just straight up, like you said, like, oh, my date doesn't like me or something like that. They sing it, but with this one, it's just much more. It just enhances the feelings in the story. It doesn't tell
Yeah.
you. So
The
that's.
the way that it works is that, like, now I'm trying to think of it a little bit more clearly, is like in these other ones, these other pretty much 90% of all other musicals,
Mhm,
they are just singing the script essentially, right? Like they are singing what has to happen. Whereas here, it feels as if the characters are just interacting with the soundtrack or the score of the film. Because when you
mhm,
listen to like a score or a soundtrack, it's simply just underlying and it's adding more context to the scene, but it's not ever straight up telling you what's happening. And it feels like they're like aware of the music that's playing around them as if it was like some like weird meta thing and they're singing along to it and interacting and dancing through it and whatnot.
for sure, for sure.
Yeah. But it's I would put this up there with, which I don't know if I talked about on the pod. I think I did maybe for our Halloween episode, but the movie The Wicker Man. I
Mhm.
know I talked about it like on my own Instagram
Yep.
for Mandalay, but I don't remember if I did on the pod. But that movie is one of the best musicals of all time, one of the greatest musicals, the great horror musicals ever.
Mhm.
Because it's not billing itself as a musical, but music is something that is very much present in it and kind of interacts and works in the same way, although in a far more twisted, fucked up way than this. But same kind of idea.
Mhm. I understand totally. But like coming back to like, do you have a favorite scene or something you really like, or is it like, do you have a favorite scene?
Uh, because thinking about that, like, because I didn't rewatch this movie, I didn't rewatch La La Land prior to this. I think I
Mhm,
typically do. I like to rewatch it and be like, okay. But this one, I didn't have time to rewatch it, but I did see it, like I said, maybe 2 years ago.
mhm,
And when I think of the movie, genuinely, the only thing that I can really like conjure up, like specifically without hesitation, and it's corny, but it's like the whole last sequence, like the last like 5 to 10 minutes,
mhm.
um, is like it's I don't know. I maybe relate to it too hard, like in a weird way too. So it's just like to me, I can't just shake that, and it's to me almost like it's like what I picture when I think of the movie. I can't even think of anything else because even like the opening with the whole dancing on the cars and it's stopping the freeway, like for me, that's not my kind of bag. Like even for me, like for that to open the film, I was kind of like, all right, like what are we gonna do here? Like I said, I wasn't combating and fighting the movie, but so I'm like, all
Mhm.
right, this is not putting you in good favor with me, like off the bat. Um, but the ending is one of like the best endings of like of the 2010s for sure, I would say.
Giselle definitely knows how to make good endings and endings that stick with you because all his films have such memorable endings that just tie up the film perfectly. Because a lot of films, I find like some of them just they drop off at the ending, like they don't execute as well. You have a great film and then it just drops off. Him just like it just gets even better with the ending. With Whiplash, which is one of the most anxiety-inducing, insane, hectic endings ever.
Yeah,
Then you have First Man, which has a very intimate, very beautiful ending.
yeah,
This one, which is very bittersweet and just it stays with you. The images and just Ryan Gosling's last, like the way he looks at her at the end,
yeah, yeah.
just it just gets branded into your brain. And even
And it's
with
almost
Babylon, that ending just it's insane. Like when you think about the film, like that ending sequence and montage and like him at the end is just it doesn't get
I
any
was
better than his endings.
yeah, I was just thinking about it now as you were describing it. Is I the Babylon ending is almost kind of a play on the ending of La La Land. It's almost the
Mhm.
exact same structure now that I think
Yes.
about it because it's fast forwarding and then it has this super intense like flashback montage thing like
Mhm.
with this, it's like what could have been, right? Between like Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling. Isn't there like a dream sequence where it's like them imagining what could have happened? And
Yep.
then it cuts back to them in reality and they sort of are looking at each other in that great moment. And then they go their separate ways. And then in Babylon, it's kind of the same thing where only instead of like the future of what could have been, it is just the entire history of like cinema for like the
Mhm.
last 100 plus years. And then
Yep.
again, it's followed, it ends with him like in a weird way, sort of departing. You know what I mean? Like mutually from his love of Hollywood, of that system, of that world. Um, so
Mhm.
yeah, now that I think about it, it's funny. Babylon was kind of an extension of La La Land. The ending of Babylon was kind of an extension of the La La Land ending. I feel like.
Totally, totally, and that's what I'm saying. Like his endings, just they're so great, and I also love like even with the cinematography. I mean, this film is just an incredible achievement in terms of like cinematography, lighting, just the color palette. It's just so beautiful to look at, and it all comes back to a big inspiration from Jacques Demy, who is a
Hmm.
French director who Damien Chazelle was inspired a lot by, and even that opening sequence is almost straight out of The Young Girls of Rochefort, like the one with the
Okay.
dancing on the cars. It's in that film, and another film which I'm going to mention when we get into that, which we might do next. There's another film that was heavily inspired, like that La La Land was heavily inspired by, and the ending is like I'll get it. I'll get into it. I'm not gonna.
Okay.
I'm gonna say
Get
do you
me
have
excited here.
dude? It's should we get into it now? Like our four picks, or do you have
Let's
something else?
yeah, let's do it. I say we get into the four ones, and that'll be able to spark up some more combo about the film. Like I said, I feel like everything that there is to say about this movie has been said to death already.
Mhm.
Um, so let's get into it. Let's offer something new here. Let's do the four movies that we think that either Gosling or Emma Stone or whoever might think would be literally them. You want to kick it off with one?
I can kick it off, and the film I just wanted to mention was The Umbrellas of Cherbourg, which is
Mm-hmm.
also directed by Jacques Demy, which was such a big influence for La La Land that it's very much like if those two characters would watch that film, they would be like, "Oh, that's literally me," because that's almost literally what happened to them,
Mm-hmm.
which I just think fits for both of them. And it came out in the 60s, I think, and it's just even just the color palette. It's very like pastel colors. They sing, which I don't know if you would like, but they sing a lot in this film. I think every dialogue is sung, but they don't talk.
Mm-hmm.
But it's
Okay.
such an incredible film, and even like the ending is just almost it's not shot for shot. It definitely has different like it's like Damien Chazelle took that film and set it in Hollywood and made it about both an actress and a singer. In this film, it's
Uh-huh.
a young girl. She's 17 and she works at an umbrella shop in that city.
Okay.
And she falls in love with this other guy who is a mechanic at like a car, whatever. Like he fixes up cars, and they
Sure.
fall in love. But he has to go to war, and while he's away, she does. There's another man when her parents or like her mother wants her to be with that guy instead. And
Mm-hmm.
while waiting for him, a couple stuff, like a couple things happen, which I don't want to spoil, but in the end, it doesn't work out. And you have this bittersweet thing, like in La La Land, where these two meet and they think about what could happen, but they're both with different people now. And it's just such a beautiful ending, and you can see why Damien Chazelle just took that and said, like, let's do it in La La Land as well. And
Yeah.
heavily inspired, and it's an amazing film. I highly recommend it to everyone who has seen La La Land, likes La La Land. Check it out, and even you, as someone who doesn't like it when they sing a lot, but I think this might be one that you might enjoy.
Yeah, I've never seen this movie. I know about it, and I really don't know that I've seen any films by Jacques Demy either, to be honest with you.
I love him. He's
Um,
one of my favorite directors.
I know he directed a movie called Lola. which is a movie I've had on the watch list that I'm really interested in because it was described as like, and if I would have had more time, maybe would have checked it out, maybe even for this, and I probably will afterwards. But it was like I remember hearing it described as like a musical without music. So I always felt like that would have been something cool to kind of that would sort of reel me into that kind of shit. But I'm gonna get on it because you're not the first one that I've heard like compare this movie to La La Land as well. Like it seems like it's almost like a reimagination, sort of, I guess, that Chazelle does.
It is. It's Chazelle's favorite film of all time, he mentioned.
Oh, really?
Yep. So heavily inspired by it.
Interesting. Okay.
Like I said,
Well,
it's
I'm gonna make
just he took this film and set it in Hollywood and made it about that, but the core of the film is just the same.
cool. I'm gonna see where that bitch is streaming then.
Might be hard to find, but yeah, if you can find it, watch it. It's
Yeah.
incredible.
Actually, it's available in a lot of places here. It's on HBO Max and on Criterion Channel.
Interesting.
All right, no excuses.
For sure, check it out. It's not one of those cases where like, oh, this is the original one. Like it's just a blatant copy, or oh, this is better. It's just they coexist because they're ultimately they have something different to offer as well. Like La La Land
Hmm.
just other things and other themes as well, but just the core of it. Like if you love this film, you're gonna like this or love it even.
Sure.
So yeah,
Sure. Hell
that's
yeah.
my first pick.
The Umbrellas of Cherbourg. Well, cool. I am going to also kick mine off with one that I think a lot of people have mentioned is like an inspiration or similar or whatever. And that is the Bob Fosse film from 1979 called All That Jazz. Are you familiar with this picture? I think we've talked about it on here actually.
I am. I haven't seen it. I wanted to watch it for this because I wanted to include it on my list, but I'm glad
Yeah.
you did.
Yeah, it's a really, really, really good movie, and it feels very much like a Fellini sort of film, like more so in like the 8.5 vein, where
Okay.
it's very sort of meta. Bob Fosse was a dance choreographer prior to him transitioning into filmmaking and being a director. And prior to this time, he had directed the film Cabaret. He had also directed the film Lenny, which starred Dustin Hoffman, which I have a poster of in my room, where Dustin Hoffman plays Lenny Bruce, like a 1950s, 1960s stand up comic in the U.S. Who was very vulgar and would then get arrested because it was illegal for him to like be saying vulgar shit like in public back then. Where like what he was saying was like it doesn't even compare to like the shit that's being like said now like everywhere. Um, but essentially in all that jazz, it's like a autobiography, but like fictionalized in a weird way because it's about Bob Fosse himself handling like putting together this like theater group or theater crew for this like upcoming musical while at the same time he's also editing this movie about a comedian, a stand-up comedian, and it's him dealing with those two things while also balancing like this awful like drug addiction that he has. um and it's very like the whole thing is about Bob Fosse's life, but ultimately it is there are a lot of musical moments in it. Obviously, dance it tends to take the stage more so than the actual singing, but still the singing is obviously there. And it always stars Roy Scheider, who obviously is Chief Brody from Jaws. He's the lead in Sorcerer. He is supporting in fucking The French Connection, just in a ton of awesome stuff. And he does a really really fantastic job of like portraying just the absolutely just like obsessed artist who is lives, breathes, and dies by his work. And I feel like Ryan Gosling's character in La La Land would look very much to this Bob Fosse character, or his name is Joe Gideon in the film. And I could see him looking at him and being like, that is me, even though it's really not. But I could totally see him being very much inspired and influenced by that character of Joe Gideon that Roy Scheider plays and all that jazz.
And it fits because he loves jazz, so
And that, yeah, and most obviously.
yeah. I actually wanted to watch it because the way I wanted to structure my list at first, I wanted to pick 2 films that, like, are similar or similar themes that both of these characters could look at, and then I wanted to
Hmm.
do 1 film about a singer and 1 film about an actor.
Hmm.
That was a bit more difficult, and so when
Yeah,
researching films about musicians and jazz, I came across this film and read a little
yeah.
bit about it, but I couldn't watch it in time, so I had to restructure my list and do something else, so I'm really
I could
great.
see,
Mhm.
yeah, I could see you really like falling in love with this movie, honestly. I could see this very much being like your bag.
It sounded so great, and what you just, like, mentioned just sounds so great, and I wanna watch it.
Yeah, and it's a good mix of like having like that meta aspect to it. It also has this musical sort of like cheeriness to it, but at the same time, like it's really dark. Like the movie is like super fucking dark. And really goes to like some kind of intense places, but it never feels all that like it feels just like a dream, like a real hallucinatory dream. It's really interesting and a great movie for sure.
Did you watch it recently, or is it, like, a film you've seen a while ago?
No, I've only seen it one time, and I think I saw it maybe for the first time like a year or so ago.
Mhm. Was it because of
Yeah.
La La Land, or was it, like, completely
No, no, this was like it was just me being interested. Well, I love that movie Lenny, like which he's kind of basing his this movie on his life while he made that movie. So there
Mhm.
was that, and I really like Bob Fosse. I find him to be really interesting, and I just wanted to get because he has a small filmography. I think he only directed 4 or 5 films, so like it's easy to sort of hop in. Which to this day I still have only seen 2. So, but that was kind of like I want to get into his films, but it would have been more so because of Roy Scheider, more so because of Bob Fosse, more so because of the new Hollywood era. Um, I don't think it was until after I saw it where I made any kind of connection to La La Land, though.
Gotcha, gotcha, but that's a
Yeah,
great pick. I really
yeah,
wanna check out this film now.
yeah. Highly recommend it.
Awesome. Then I have my next pick, which you spoke of Fellini, so I'll just, like,
Yeah,
go with that one next, and I picked the film La Dolce Vita.
cool.
Have you seen it?
I it was on TV here, like on TCM or something.
Mhm,
And I remember watching the first like hour and a half, and then this was like I had just moved back to Florida and I was like living with my parents for some time and there was it was just like around the time where I was watching the afternoon and everyone's coming home, everyone's just in the kitchen cooking and it's just became one of those things where like I'm gonna turn this off, like because I can't even hear or understand anything that's happening.
mhm.
And then I just never got around. But I've seen more than half of the film and I just
Like,
for
yeah.
some reason never got around to it. Yeah.
Well, I watched it recently, and that was one of the film I forgot to mention last week in the films we saw recently, so that was my way to sneak it
Yeah.
in here. But
Yeah.
it's just something about the film. It's not necessarily similar themes to La La Land. It stars this, I think he's like a journalist, and he goes to this
Yeah.
high society of Italy at that time, and he's trying to fit in, and it's more so about like here and there, it's just snippets of his life and moments
Hmm.
of his life. It's not one continuous story, and the way he tries to fit in and just the way he struggles with it. But ultimately, what like reminded me of La La Land, there's one sequence where he meets. I don't know if you've got to this one where like American actress comes to Italy and he hangs out with her, and that's where
Hmm.
like the famous fountain scene comes from. That I'm sure you've seen.
I've seen it, but I don't know that I actually got to it within the context of the film.
Yeah, because it's a long film, so I'm not sure if you
Yeah.
with 1.5 hours got to that point. But just to something about this reminded me a lot of La La Land and, for example, the observatory scene in La La Land.
Hmm.
Not just the visuals, but something about it, the way you watch it, it's so dreamy, and it's so much about like you can just feel the love and the longing and just the dreamlike of the scene, both scenes, and that's kind of why it reminded me of it, and also about this longing to be in this high society, the way I'm sure once Emma Stone's character Mia got into that scene, just the people she surrounded herself with and the change for her. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
something that he might have also went through, and he also has like a girlfriend that wants him to come down from that and like have a
Yeah.
more realistic life and things like that. And that's just something that kind of resonated with me, and I wanted to kind of connect. And like I said, just the fountain scene was the main aspect of it that remind me of La La Land. Yeah.
Yeah. I gotta follow back up with where I left out, or at least start over.
Mhm.
Because that's the thing. Like I saw so much, but at the same time, it's like I didn't see anything like at all because it is like a 3 hour film. Like it's a whole ass saga. Like it's an odyssey. It really is.
It is.
But Fellini has that way of adding that dreamy sort of date to all his films that feel just like waking dreams.
Mhm.
Um, and there's definitely a lot of that, and it seems like those three, like I could very much see, like I guess maybe not even La Dolce Vita, maybe just Fellini in general, like 8.5, like I mentioned. But I could see that all that jazz in La La Land, all sort of living in a sort of harmonious little union.
For sure. For sure. But yeah,
Yeah,
that's my second pick.
hell yeah, great pick. I remember when you had seen it, we talked about it. I think just like off the pod ourselves.
I think so.
Um,
I forgot to mention it last week, so I was like, this is my opportunity just to sneak it in here and yeah.
Hell yeah. Well, the next one, I'm going to throw it back to the good old days a little bit, to 1937, for my next pick. And that is a film by a director named Leo McCarey. And the movie is called The Awful Truth. It's starring Cary Grant and Irene Dunn. This is like in the heyday of like the late 30s into like the 40s, where Cary Grant was just absolutely killing it with all these like screwball comedies during this time. But this one predates like His Girl Friday, and this predates Bringing Up Baby, and it predates Arsenic and Old Lace, and kind of those ones that he's more so remembered for. But this movie is really good. It's about Cary Grant and Irene Dunn are this married couple who they essentially like they start to file for divorce because there's like suspicion. Like I think it opens with Cary Grant like tells the wife he's going out of town for like a work trip or something, but turns out he just goes to like the men's club or like the sports club or whatever for like a week, like in the same city. And he comes home and he finds out that like his wife went out or like spent the night with like some dude she works with. Um, so the whole movie is them like they're getting a divorce and they're going through the proceedings, but they're constantly trying to undermine each other's new relationship. And it's super funny. Like it's absolutely hilarious. And especially like for the time, like it is just so quick. It's like so clever and it doesn't waste any time. Like comedy is like the forefront of it, which makes it so easy to watch, and it just flies by, in like 90 minutes. Um, but it's one of those movies that culminates into like a final, like maybe 10 to 15, like sort of minutes where they kind of have to like sit down between the two of them and actually like put all the comedy aside and sort of like figure out how they feel, like what is going through their head. And like at first I remember even thinking like this feels kind of clunky, but then ultimately like after rewatching it another time and after just like thinking about it more, it really is like a nice sort of like end cap to the movie. How the brakes sort of are pumped, and you are now like put in a much more quiet sort of thing for the last like handful of minutes without spoiling it. But it reminds me of La La Land in a way because it's sort of like there sort of was like an obsessive nature between the two of them, like over each other, like up until the end, obviously. when that sort of they were able to come to terms and go their separate ways. But I could totally see them both watching this and feeling this kind of jealousy over the other person, because I do think that like there is a part of that in La La Land too. Like I think that they're like Ryan Gosling, like there's a moment where she's like he says something to Emma Stone about like she felt she didn't want him to succeed because she felt better about herself when he was not doing anything. And there is like jealousy in the air of La La Land, and this movie is all about that. But it's super funny, and I could definitely see Chazelle being like a fan of this because it's a very all he's done is made like screwball movies essentially. They're all
Yep.
so quickly paced, and this is like one of the best ones for sure.
That's such a great pick and great connection. And I love with those old films, they're always so snappy with the comedy. And it's
It's
just
so
so
good.
fun to watch.
And it also has one of the greatest like dog acting. I just had to pull it up here to see. The dog's name was Skippy. He
Mhm.
played Asta in the Thin Man movies, but one of the all-time greatest dog actors, genuinely of all time, maybe the greatest animal actor ever. I mean this
Hell
very
yeah.
seriously,
Some
not
shout
even as
outs.
a joke. Like straight up, shout out to Skippy
Dude, love that shout out. He's probably not alive anymore, but dude, animal actors, we gotta give them more credit, man.
for sure. And I'm looking at it now. He was also the dog in Bringing Up Baby, to mention
Mm,
Cary Grant.
damn.
This motherfucker lived for 20 years from
He's
1931 to 1951.
he's a star.
That
He,
boy was eating good.
damn, yeah. Yeah, I
Crazy.
love that.
Shout out
I love that
Skippy.
you gave him a shout out, man. He deserves it.
Yeah, he deserves it. Probably the greatest dog actor of all time.
Yeah, yeah.
What's your next pick, buddy?
Okay, so my next pick, let me just find real quick. And I wanted to go with another musical and another favorite of mine, and that is Tick Tick Boom, which I know I've recommended to a lot of people, and I think you as well. And it's
Hmm.
just such a great one. And stars Andrew Garfield, and it's about Jonathan Larson, who is a musician, he's a writer, and he wants his own Broadway show.
Hmm.
And the film deals a lot with a lot of things. Like there's things about HIV and his friends who are gay and during that time, and it's also about his relationship that suffers a lot from him being obsessed with this idea of making his musical and writing and becoming famous and things like that and being an artist and just the way his relationship with his girlfriend suffers from that, and also a lot of about him knowing that he is made for more and wants more, but also
Yeah.
just how hard it is to make something, to put so much of you out there, not being able to on time, how hard it is. And it just deals with so much of these issues. And I think it's a perfect one to pair with La La Land, and Andrew Garfield is amazing in it. He learned singing just a couple of months. Like when he was cast,
Yeah.
Lin-Manuel Miranda, he asked him like, "Can you sing?" He's like, "When I was shooting," he's like, "in a couple of months," he's like, "I'll sing until then." And he
Yeah.
just kills it. He has a banger voice. You know I love Andrew Garfield, and it's one of my favorite films. And I could relate a lot to Jonathan Larson, who was a real person and sadly
Hmm.
died. But just the way this film like touched my heart, and it's really about the struggles of being an artist and what it's like to be an artist, and just your dreams and aspiration and working towards them and never giving up. And I think that's something a lot of us can resonate with, and I just highly recommend this film. It's just so great.
Yeah. This is about the dude who wrote, is it
Rent.
Rent?
Yep,
Okay.
that's him.
Cool. Yeah. Again, not really my bag, so I kind of steered clear of it. But I know you've really been like really preaching about this film since it came out, what, in 2021 ish, or
Yeah,
was it last year?
I think 2021 came out on
Yeah.
Netflix.
Yeah. And I love Andrew Garfield, but yeah, haven't gotten around to it. But maybe one day. Maybe one
If
day
you
I
can get
will.
past the musical stuff, and it also like it's part of the story. It's the songs he created and he wrote.
Sure.
They sing, so it's not just about. random singing, but
It's not them just like I have HIV.
nope. It's
Yeah.
the actual songs that were in his like music for saying Rent. Like they
Okay,
have
that's dope.
those songs and they sing them,
That's
and
awesome.
it's,
Okay,
it's also about the making of Rent. So
cool. Okay.
yeah,
Have you seen Rent
I haven't.
in any way, like either
They,
the
they made
movie
a
or
film about it. I saw.
yeah, yeah,
I haven't. I want to watch the original Broadway musical, the original Broadway show. I'm sure there's a recording of it on
yeah.
YouTube. I have to.
I've never
Have
seen.
you?
I don't even know what Rent is about, honestly. Like it's just a part of like society and pop culture, but I'm like, I don't even know what Rent is even about.
I think it's exactly about that. It's about his friends who were part of the LGBTQ who like suffered from HIV and things like that during that time and living in New
Oh, that's what
York.
the actual musical is about.
I think so because
Oh,
like the movie also tackles those with his best friend and the stuff he goes through, and I think it's about that and also struggling in New York to pay rent. I think being an artist and
okay.
it's like this. So I think, but I'm not sure. I have to actually have to watch it. But yeah, it's just one
Interesting.
of those films that I think pairs well, and Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone also had a great relationship in those Spider-Man films, Amazing Spider-Man. So that's another
Yep.
one.
You
Yeah.
got to. Yeah, that's another good combo of on-screen chemistry.
Mhm.
Garfield Stone as well as Gosling Stone.
Yep. I'll turn on my
Hell yeah.
light real quick because it's
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It's
again, you're
getting that
witnessing
early.
winter in Germany, man. It gets dark in like 20 minutes and you can't even see me anymore.
I know we
So
literally we always start the pod like at least these last like two or three where Dino is completely in the light and then after like half an hour it's just complete darkness in his room.
pitch black.
Whereas me, I'm still trying to get my eyes open from waking up, an hour or two ago.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm I feel like okay, which one should I do? These two kind of have a connection, I guess, to each other. But I'll do this one. So my next movie is going to be a favorite of mine, which was the last movie that I thought of for this list. Like it was one this morning that I thought of, and I don't even know if it'll work, but we'll see. But that's the 1992 film by Woody Allen called Husbands and Wives. It's starring Woody Allen, Mia Farrow, Sidney Pollack, the director, and Judy Davis as the four main titular husbands and wives. Woody Allen and Mia Farrow play a married couple. Sidney Pollack and Judy Davis play a married couple. And the film opens up with Sidney Pollack and Judy Davis coming over to Woody Allen's house with Woody Allen and Mia Farrow's house, and they're about to go out for like a double date in New York, and they announce that they're getting a divorce. And they're very casual and very calm about it. Like, yeah, we've thought about it for a while. We don't really love each other that much anymore. And we're kind of just in it just for the face. So we're just going to, go see it. And they are very just like objectively minded about it and are very responsible and mature about it. But Mia Farrow, like, it takes it very personally. And she's like so upset over it and upset by it. And it forces her to then question her entire marriage with Woody Allen. And there are some great like supporting performances in this as well. Like Liam Neeson is in this in a supporting role, and so is Juliette Lewis in a small supporting part. Um, and this movie's just I feel like in this okay, so I don't like Mia Farrow personally. Like I find
Mhm.
her to be a very obnoxious, bad actress. And Woody Allen, I don't really care for either. I think he's a great director, but as an actor, it's just the same thing. But the Sidney Pollack and Judy Davis relationship is one of my favorite relationships on film, like ever. Because it's so funny the way that they deal with their breakup. And I don't want to spoil anything because I think everyone should watch, and a part of the fun is just seeing how it unfolds. But the way that they sort of approach their breakup in a sort of very matter of fact way, or at least that's how it seems, very matter of factly. I don't know. And now I'm like trying to scramble. I'm like, what did I see? Like, what was going in my brain like 90 minutes ago when I thought to pair this? And I'm kind of blanking. But there are certain themes, I guess, that sort of are parallel when you are trying to make a relationship that maybe doesn't work, or even when you give up on a relationship when it really should work and is working. And it kind of it balances that line really well. And to me, this is my favorite Woody Allen movie. I love the way that it's shot. It's not like Chazelle at all. It's actually very handheld documentary. Like it's probably one of the biggest influences on me. Like when I make stuff because it's very like it's like watching a docu like you're there. Um, but I think that's it. It's just the relationship dynamics that I think the Ryan Gosling character and the Emma Stone character would maybe watch this and sort of relate to what they're going through, even though it's sort of a different world and a sort of different presentation of it.
But I can totally see. I totally get why you picked it. What you just described, like the thing of making a relationship work that maybe shouldn't work, and ending a relationship that like that sort of thing. I
Yeah.
think it's actually a great one. I'm very curious to check it out. I haven't seen a lot of Woody Allen films, but this one, it looks great.
I think this is a good one to start. Like I think like Annie Hall, Manhattan, or whatever, are probably like the best to start. But like
Mhm.
this is another good one because it is super funny, but it's super human, and he literally mixes in like documentary like style interviews like that they do to the camera. It's really cool. Like I really like this. I think you would be a big fan. It has a great cast.
Mhm.
Great
Maybe on
cast.
Sidney Pollack, which is funny because I originally wanted to include the player in my list, sort of
Interesting.
to like put Mia and all the Hollywood actors,
Yeah.
screenwriter. But I was like, it's a little too different, so I'm saving that one for another time
Yeah.
because that's a great record, so that's fun. But
Well, well, there may be another mention of Sidney Pollack in this episode before we conclude. Yeah.
interesting. But yeah, even Liam Neeson being in it, like it just sounds interesting.
It's
Did you
it's
watch
and
this
it's super
prior though?
funny. I saw
You
it for
said
the
this
first
is
time
a
maybe
film that heavily influenced you, so I'm just curious if.
I just saw it for the first time probably like 2020 maybe or maybe even 2021.
Mhm,
Um, but the short film that I did, not to plug, but the short film I did called Santoku, um, about the knife, that entirely, like I literally shot it with that in mind. Like I'm gonna be handheld, I'm gonna hold on all these takes and not really cut like very much and
mhm,
just go back and forth and pan and like it feels like you are very much present there. And it's another influence on the one that I just did too. Like without thinking about it as clearly,
mhm.
but before I straight up was like, no, I'm gonna do like the husbands and wives thing. Like I want it to feel like I'm in the room with them.
Now
Um,
I gotta watch it for sure, and then just watch Santokude again, like just to see the parallels.
yeah,
But
yeah,
the way you shot
yeah.
it,
It's the way he shot it is so good, and it's very shaky. It looks great though. Great. It's really good. I can't say enough good things about that movie.
that's a great pick. Do you want to do the next one because you said they're sort of connected? So if you want, you can just.
Sure. Yeah, I'll just go ahead into the last one. Speaking of Sidney Pollack, who really is like the standout. Like I said, Sidney Pollack and Judy Davis are the standouts of husbands and wives. But I'm going a Sidney Pollack directorial effort. Who Sidney Pollack is a very he is a great director. He was just an all like he was so good at everything. He was such a good actor, but he was such a good director too. And one movie that I think this one might be apart from all that jazz the most not obvious, but the one that matches the most, and that's the movie from 1973 called The Way We Were. Do you know about this movie?
I don't. Actually, like with every like movie you
I
pick,
I
I
feel
look it
like
up on Letterboxd to see, but I've not heard
I
about this.
feel like you might at least maybe recognize the poster of her. I don't know, but it stars Barbara Streisand and Robert Redford. Are the two leads, and Barbara Streisand wrote a song for the film called "The Way We Were" that became like her biggest song like ever. Um,
Mhm,
but essentially, the movie is about Robert Redford and Barbara Streisand. Streisand are like they meet I've only seen this movie once as well. I forget how they meet, but they're both like in college like sometime like in like the 40s or something. Like it's like World War kind of time. And they both have very like extreme sort of political views, but on the complete opposite spectrum. Like Robert Redford is a very conservative like college dude, and Barbara Streisand is like an over the top like very liberal Democrat. Um, and but yet they fall for each other, and they kind of have this like, again, sort of like Odyssey like sort of relationship that 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 stands for like years and years and years and years and years. Like they go their separate ways. Like he goes to the war, they come back, the war ends. In New York they meet, and it's just like over the course of like, I mean, like 20, 30, 40 years, I think, even. And this is another one where it kind of leads up to an ending that it's like Chazelle clearly was keeping this in mind, or had seen this, or was aware of it, and plays with the same kind of idea of that sort of like going your separate ways because it is probably what is best. Even if there is something that's really palpable there and you really love that other person, maybe it's not the right, match. Um Similarly with La La Land. Although La La Land really draws that line too, because a lot of times it takes me back to the husbands and wives thing, where it's like, is this really for the best, or was this like their own just like stupidity that kind of ruined a good thing? Because you could argue both sides over the course of the film, but I find myself always kind of grappling with the fact like maybe they didn't even make the right decision, honestly.
That's the beauty of it because you can take it and interpret it in different ways, and
Yeah,
also take it and then apply it to your own relationship or your own experience, and it's just
for sure.
very like multiple like, I don't know, views of that ending, which I just like. So
It's got levels to it.
yeah, that's a great pick. I've never seen the poster. I've never even heard of this film.
Dude, check it out. It should be available. Like it's like a pretty popular movie from like that time, so it
Mhm.
should be easy, I think, to maybe find at least to rent.
Yeah,
But
I can
I think
imagine.
you would be a fan. I think you would like it.
Mhm. I need to watch more Sidney Pollack films, so I think this might be the next one on the list.
Do it. And if I can recommend another one, it's a film he did the year after called The Yakuza, with Robert Mitchum. A great neo noir, since we are in noir November
Oh,
still.
okay.
An
Dude,
amazing Japanese set neo noir with Robert Mitchum, um, from 1974. Fantastic
need,
movie.
need to watch that one.
Written by Paul Schrader as well.
Dude, that poster is sick.
Yes, it's amazing. It's very much in line with the Friends of Eddie Coyle, which I shouted out on Mandalay, and I have a poster of right here, actually.
Mhm.
Um, but it's very much in line with that kind of sort of vibe.
Put them on my watch list. I gotta watch both.
Great movie.
Yeah. Okay.
All right,
And
close us
then
out, Dino.
for my next one is a film that I mentioned last week, and this is another excuse for me to talk about this, but this one actually like fits really well, and that's Past Lives,
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
which it's my favorite film of this year. It's so incredible, and I don't want to get too much into it because I do not want to spoil this for people who haven't seen it. I know you
Yes,
haven't seen
please.
it.
Yeah,
You gotta get on this, man. You're gonna love
I
this.
will. I will.
But it's pretty much about this girl in South Korea. She grew up there. She had a boy she really liked there, but then she moved to Canada, I think Toronto it was. And then after a couple years, she tries to reconnect with, but she looks up old friends or people she knew back in South Korea, and she comes across a guy she liked as a kid. And the film is also set over multiple years, so you have like a time skip and things happen, and you can very much connect this to La La Land in certain ways. Not going to talk about more of the plot, but a central theme in this film is Inyan, which is the South Korean word for, I'm just going to read this. Inyan is the belief that the interactions between two people in this life are owed to interaction or near interactions in their past lives. The concept suggests that some encounters are not, as we might first assume, accidental, but rather a cosmic tug on our sleeve. The universe saying, here, this human is important to your journey. And this just,
Sheesh.
dude, that's a very central theme in this film. It's very much about Inyan. They talk about Inyan, they explain Inyan, and dude, it's honestly one of the best films I've seen. I don't want to overhype it, but it
Okay.
immediately jumped in like my top 15. Like I say, my favorite film of this year, and it connects really well to La La Land, and it's just all around an incredible film, an incredible journey, and it will be in your head like weeks to come, and I think it will influence just you and your life and your personality for your entire life. At least it did for me. So
Fuck yeah.
watch it, please watch it.
Fuck yes. All right, dude. I am going to check that 100%. I know you are not the first person who has
Mhm,
like expressed like overwhelming amounts of love towards it.
mhm.
Um so yeah, I slept on it when it was out in theaters here. So is it might be available for like rent and stuff now, maybe.
Probably, and the fact that
It'll
it's, I
be
think,
it'll be on
mhm,
streaming soon, I'm sure of it.
for sure I want to get the Blu-ray one once it comes out. I think it might be out already. I think it just came out on Blu-ray a couple of days or weeks ago.
Oh,
But
okay.
what's crazy is I think it's, let me check just to make sure, but I think it's Celine Song's first. It's her first film, which
Yeah.
it's just insane the way that you make this your first film, and she's definitely like just a voice in the filmmaking industry that you we need to like see what she makes next and keep an eye on her because she's just incredibly talented.
Yeah, I'm just looking in to see what else she's done. It seems like this might be a bit of an autobiographical film, a little
Mhm.
bit.
Actually, not sure about the backstory. I need to read more into it, but could be. And she
It
has a new
yeah,
project coming up with A24.
oh cool. Yeah, because it says she's a Korean based born in South Korea, director, whatever. Moved to Ontario, Canada when she was 12.
Well, might actually be.
Undergraduate, yeah, New York. Yeah, interesting.
But yeah, highly recommend it.
Cool. Yeah, she's doing a film now called
Materialist, I think.
Materialist.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cool name.
Mhm.
And speaking of which, I guess a lot of people are considering or comparing past lives to the work of Richard Linklater, Noah Baumbach, and Woody Allen to
Mhm.
bring it full
There you go.
circle.
There you go.
There we go. There we go. Well, do you want to go through your four for anyone who's listening who maybe
Mhm.
wants to make a list? You want to just list them out real quick?
Yeah, so I picked The Umbrellas of Cherbourg, La Dolce Vita, Tick Tick Boom, and Past Lives.
Hell yeah. And I picked All That Jazz, The Awful Truth, Husbands and Wives, and The Way We Were. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
I think we got a good little collection here of films for people to check out and especially for me to check out as well. A good amount of those I have not seen. So
Same here. Same here. A lot of
yeah.
your picks I haven't seen, and I think you brought something unique to the table, so I'm proud of us.
Yeah, I am too. And next week we have another 2016 film of Ryan Gosling's. Came out same year, just I think a couple months maybe before La La Land, and that is the comedy from Shane Black slash neo noir,
Mhm.
The Nice Guys.
I'm
I'm
so
super
excited
excited
to
to get
really
into
watch it.
that. We're going to have a special guest on the pod for that. Someone who is a very big fan. I'm excited to bring in a third person to talk about that movie and see what movies they bring
Mhm.
to the table. I'm gonna have to really buckle down and come up with some good. I feel like next week we're gonna have some really good, literally me picks. I feel like there's a lot to work with. Um, and I just rewatched The Nice Guys maybe like a handful of months ago. I think I'm gonna run it back again for this and really keep it fresh this time.
Yeah, I'm excited to rewatch it as well. It's such a great film. It's super funny, and there are a lot of films I think we can recommend that just fit well. And just talk about this one.
100 100%. Well, we will be back again.
There's
Uh,
one more thing we got to do.
oh, do it. What? What am I missing?
Well, on a scale of 1 to 10,
Oh, of course.
What should we pick for this one?
I think for me, honestly, as a on the literally me scale, I give this one a solid 9. Like
Mm,
a solid 9. Like jazz clubs.
Jazz Club.
I Yeah, out of a solid 10 jazz clubs, I would say I'm a 9 for this.
I think I gotta give it a 10, man. I think this is
Yeah,
another
I might as well, honestly. I'll do
yeah.
9.5 because I'm a hater, so I won't
Okay.
give it the full 10. But yeah,
Dude, it's a 10 out of me. I mean, Seb or even Mia, I mean, I think both of them are very high on that list, and he's a very big, literally me character. So,
I think of the films that we've gotten through of Gosling's or filmography so far, this
mhm.
is without a doubt the most relatable one for me, and maybe in his whole in his whole filmography. Honestly,
Probably, yeah. This is one
this
of
might
the
be up there as like the most relatable, like
yeah.
straight up.
We have like there are a couple of ones that are meme worthy number ones, for
For
example, like
sure.
Drive, but realistically,
Yeah.
like that are like actually that we can relate to. I think those two, like this
It's
one,
either this or the Gray Man for me. Most relatable.
100%. I think Gangster Squad is gonna be mine.
Yeah, straight up.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, I would say I'm 9 jazz clubs out of 10 for this one. Yeah.
Okay.
Hell yeah. Well, like I was saying, we'll be back next week with the nice guys. As always, thanks for listening. Thanks for subbing. If you're subscribing, if you're checking us out on YouTube, Spotify, wherever else you get pods. Um, and yeah, we'll be back next week or maybe in 2 weeks. We'll figure it out. We'll try to put it out sooner, but we got the holidays coming up. And until then, happy Thanksgiving to all you guys who are celebrating that. And yeah, I'll see you in the next pod.
Your next pod. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone, and bye bye.
See ya.